Hello and welcome to our show, Film Talk with AJ Dean. I'm AJ Dean, your host, and wow, we have a super special VIP guest today. We have Jon, also known as JD Cohen in the past, referred by Chloe Traicos. We want to say thank you so much to Chloe for referring us to Jon. And Jon is a film director, writer, producer, all the way from Australia. So let's give him a super warm welcome. Hey, Jon, how you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. Thank you much, Lee, for having me. It's not too early in the morning, which is a positive. But yeah, it's good to be here.
That's wonderful. Yes. So it's good in how is Australia? How is the film industry in Australia doing? How is it treating you good?
Um, it's times are tough everywhere, let's say. And Australia tends to struggle with its film industry at the best of times. So yeah, times are a little hard, and we'll leave it at that.
Okay. And fingers crossed for more positive uh, trends happening in the future. So let's get right into it, Jon. You've mentioned that your early life and psychology background shaped the darker tone in your work. And we have on screen here Backlash and the Rules of the Game, which we're going to talk about soon. Can you point to a specific moment or experience in your life that first made you want to explore those themes on screen?
Um, I mean, it wasn't just the psychology degree. The psychology degree gave me certain tools to understand it. I think a lot of my darkness and dark humor comes from an English boarding school for 5 years. So, being the only Australian there with, at that point, quite an Australian accent, you don't want to stand out at school and even less in a boarding school. So it was fairly tough run of years. And it was kind of what you do to survive. There's even a TV show that was created by someone who went to my boarding school, which everyone will have heard of, which is Survivor. And that kind of sums up what you have to do to survive a boarding school. So if you don't fall into the right place, it can get fairly stressful. And then the psychology degree helped me understand a chunk of it. And well, I've been bitter and twisted ever since.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. You know, well, how you talk about it now, but when you went through it, it was not so funny. So let's talk a little bit about that. Did you have nuns or did you have, you said it was a boarding school. Did you have really regimented, restricted rules that it was overbearing? Talk to us a little bit about that. How did you survive?
Badly. So I mean, every minute was kind of run by bells and rules, and you had to wake up a certain time, you had to have breakfast at a certain time. If you didn't turn up to breakfast at the right time, you'd get punished, etc., etc., etc. And this was back in the late 80s when I started. So I was at boarding school from 1990. And they actually had to bring in an act of parliament in England to stop the senior boys from abusing the first years. So we went through a term or two of the old way, which was not a way that I'm glad is repeated anymore, as far as we hope. And it was tough. It was tough to get through. And especially if you tended towards being a loner, you didn't have a group in your own year that you could fall back on. And it took me a few years to find my group. But once I did, things did get better because you kind of then, like on Survivor, you run in an alliance and people have your back and things can change and things can move, but generally you've got a core group that gets you through it.
Yeah, that support group is so, when you find your people, it's so important, isn't it? Because we all need that to get through times like that. And I
Oh,
just
yeah.
congratulate you for surviving all through that, you know. And it probably made you more resilient, you know, for the rest of life. And because you went through so much there. So quite an experience that you went through.
Yeah.
Jon, your films consistently balance commercial appeal with a distinct creative voice, your own voice. So how do you navigate that, the tension without compromising your storytelling? How do you keep that balance?
It's tricky and it's taken me, I feel, a lot of years to actually keep my voice in there. So I know when I first started, people would say, this is what the industry wants. This is the stories you should be telling. This is how to tell them. And I hadn't done enough to have enough confidence in myself that I was like, no, no, this is how I want to tell my story. This is what I'm going to tell. Um, and I think it took me a lot of years. I don't feel it was until I got to Ravenswood, which was a 2017 Supernatural, that I really started letting myself tell more of the stories I wanted to. My earlier films had a lot of me in them, but they tended to go off on weird tangents and strange ideas that were people's advice. And advice can be great, but you've got to work out what advice serves your story better. Because if you don't tell a story you want to tell, if you don't like your own story, I don't think anyone else will. I think it's very hard for people to like a story that you don't like. And you see this in a lot of sequels, bigger budget sequels. You can feel the studio's little fingers sitting in there going, that character was funny. So let's have 15,000 more jokes from them so they cease to be funny. So yeah, I think it took me a long time to find a balance and trust that the story could tell and it would appeal to people commercially while keeping my own slight sense of whimsy in there, of which I would say Rules of the Game has probably been the best so far in keeping me in there, if that
Yes,
makes any sense.
it's incredible. I watched the trailer and I'd love to see the screener link if you could send it to me as well.
Yep.
It's so incredible. And yes, I mean, you mentioned, Survivor and also, now please forgive me. Can I mention Hunger Games?
If you want to, I would mention Battle Royale, but Hunger Games
Okay.
would work.
Okay. So I just think you're the original. Do you know what I mean, John? That's what I'm saying. So before the Hunger Games, I believe there's you. Um, but this is incredible. It's very strategic, and there's a lot of because it's a game, and it's very frightening and it's thrilling. And I'm super excited for people to watch this now. So where can they watch the rules of the game?
We haven't come out yet. So I've got a wonderful sales agent in Black Mandala who are looking to sell the film, get it out there, but timing is everything. And I trust my sales agents that they know the right time to look for sales. So for most of the world, it might take a bit of time. It might not be until early next year, which I know sounds like a long time, but that's kind of normal. And I've got a release in the United Kingdom, which should come out through High Flyers sometime around September, is the present target. So yeah, it was an interesting film to do. A better comparison, if I may, is Lord of the Flies. So Lord of
Yeah,
the Flies has
definitely.
human nature descending into anarchy.
Mhm.
And what happens when you isolate people from what can control their ways of thinking and you put them in a pressured situation, different people react different ways. And usually it descends into humans being, well, humans.
Yes, yes, exactly. I mean, it's incredible. And it's also like you've heard, when people are on a mountain slope covered in snow and they're hiking and an avalanche has happened or some kind of storm has happened and they have to survive no matter what. It's there's instincts that come about in our own nature and they're natural and organic that everybody has to face when they're in those kinds of situations. But this one is very, like I said, it's super thrilling. I encourage everybody to watch the trailer. If they can find it online, I think they can, right, John?
It is around online. If you look for the rules of the game, it should come up. Um, at some point, the distributors will say, take it down for a few months so that when we release the film, you get another kick. But again, it's all tactical. We're
And
hoping to get into a few more film festivals, so people might be able to catch it there. It's film distribution is tricky. It takes time and tactics, and it doesn't always seem right, but I'm pretty confident it'll get there.
Me too. And you're still in talks, you're still in negotiations and looking at offers that are coming in and seeing what's out there, what's the best for you. And I know you're going to make the right choice. So we also have backlash on here as well. And I have a question uh, about that. Looking back though at Sum of Existence 2004 to The Rules of the Game 2026. How would you say your voice as a filmmaker has evolved over the years?
I think it ties back to the balance of listening to advice and learning how to use it. So, you know, it's very hard when you're right because you hear everything in your head perfectly. Every character delivers every line perfectly to how you imagine they will. The story tells perfectly. If you see shots in your head, they're all perfect. The whole thing is fantastic. But when you start bringing your camera operators in and your actors in and your other creatives and your production designer, they're all creative people. They all have ideas. And some ideas will seem amazing when they're first presented, and you can get carried away with it. And not always does the idea land well with the rest of the story. Sometimes you'll hear an idea and you'll go, God, no. No, 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 no. Oh, wait a minute. And it can become a great idea when you take the time. So I think where my voice has developed best is understanding what ideas to use and how to use them. Because early on with some, it's a really sprawly story and it overdevelops characters in too many places. So by the end of it, you're not quite sure whose story you're following because you're like, well, I know everyone equally and I don't know anyone enough. And as you
Yeah.
learn that you don't have to develop everyone fully, you can develop them interestingly, but you don't need to know everything about them. And that was part of what I learned as I made films was make sure the leads are the leads. They are the people who you want to follow. And I think that's where the voice and the films have improved is I've got more and more focused. So, Backlash was probably closer to Hunger Games in style because they were murdering each other to try and escape over a bigger area. They weren't trapped in quite such a small environment. But every now and again, it was tricky knowing exactly which character I was meant to follow, even though I wrote the thing. I kind of finished editing it going, well, I'm going to kill one out of these two characters. I'm not sure which one because they're both awesome. And they were. I had two wonderful actresses, and both of them owned the character so well that in the end, I could have gone either way. And it kind of made for a slightly fragmented feel, whereas I feel like Rules of the Game, I really finally got this is my leading lady. This is who we're going to follow. She's going to be there all the time and it's going to work. So it took forever, but it's a learning process. And some people get it straight away and some people need a lot of practice.
I mean, that's great. We love attention to detail as artists, and it's part of the filmmaking journey. So, right on, John. It's all part of the story and how we evolve and how we tell our stories. And we
There's
talked about,
even
go ahead.
there's even been a few rom-coms along the way. That's the funny thing is I tend to do a darker story just because honestly, at the budget I can get, they're the ones that sell. I enjoy telling them, I enjoy exploring human nature, but as a commercial responsibility to your investors, if you don't have a lot of money, horror and supernatural tend to sell. But there's been a few rom-coms along the way with Chloe. Introducing Joe Daya was the most recent one, and they're great fun to do as well because you're still exploring human nature. You're just not murdering people and covering them with blood in every scene. They're actually having a nice time now and again.
Yeah,
So I actually do look forward to doing more of those. I'm plotting and planning one at the moment.
right. And not so many special effects or prosthetics for the makeup department and things like that, right? So it's a
Yeah,
little,
they
you
get
don't have,
they get they get to make people look beautiful.
and that's what it's all about in some aspects, in some
Yep.
stories. We
Yep.
talked a little bit about psychology, and I wanted to know, do you start with the psychology of the character first or the plot? Which is more important in your mind for creatively for a director?
I mean, it's different horses for courses. Some directors will start with, and writers more accurately will start with, what's the human story I want to tell? Some go, I've got a great plot. Now I've got to find the right human story to tell within the plot. It depends on the day of the week with me. Some days it's all characters. I've got great characters and I want to put them in a world where I can usually torture them horribly. And sometimes it's a plot idea, a story, something that just grabs me and goes, you want to tell this. Now, if I have one of those ideas, oddly, I never write it down. I wait. And if I'm still having the idea and it's still lurking around in my poor little brain after 2 or 3 months, I know I've got a story that's actually worth telling, because anyone can have a single great idea, but 80 to 90 pages is a lot more than a single idea. It can have a single core, but there's a lot more that has to happen. And then the tricky one for me is I have to find a location. So I've discovered in the last few films that my ideas feel a bit wandery until I find the location, and then suddenly I know where things are going to happen, and the scripts just pop out of that.
Yeah, location is a big secure visually scenic
Yeah.
landscapes or whatever it is, mountains or buildings. It plays such an important role in the storytelling. So I hear what you're saying on that. Fascinating. Thank you for that, Jon. So you've sustained a filmmaking career over 2 decades, Jon. And what's been the biggest challenge in staying relevant and consistently producing work in such a competitive industry? You know, there's a lot of people out there, and like you said, especially right now for jobs and things like that. How have you just stayed true and authentic to your own voice? Is your social message coming out in all of these films that you are created? I know you're so happy with them. Tell us, let us get inside your brain a little bit on this. What do you think?
It's a tricky balance. If you're making films in the low budget range, in all honesty, you can't and very rarely make enough money to survive just off the films. So I say this because I teach acting as well at one of the local acting schools. And I've said to the kids, chase your dream, chase it hard, don't give up on it, but understand that there are going to be days, months, even years when you're not getting the work you want to get because the climate might be wrong, the films you're making might not fit because everything goes in ebbs and flows. Have a side hustle. If you can have it in the film industry, that's important because you get to meet people. So, I shoot show reels for actors, I do headshots, I work on other people's films. I've spent a lot of years teaching. I survived in the industry, honestly, more by having work with other people than my own films. My own films, if I make money on them, I put it back into my films. So my living expenses come from other sources within the industry, corporate videos, real estate videos, even wedding videos now and again, which are hard. Um, but the tricky bit is maintaining honesty the whole way through. That, when you've just done your 500th reel in 7 years, and you're just doing this reel going, I have to do it right because these actors want me to, and they need every chance they can get. But I'm not telling a story I want to tell right now. It's keeping your own storytelling alive at the same time. So you do a few little short films of your own just to keep telling stories, just to stay in practice. You can get really out of practice. It's the last 5 years has been kind of crazy for me. I've done 3 features, but before that, I was lucky if I could do one every 4 years.
Congratulations. Wow, that's amazing. And so are you still, you've got, a wonderful trajectory and path with the rules of the game. And I'm super excited for you, what's going to happen in your distribution deal in the future. But can people still reach out to you? You're in Australia internationally. Can they reach out for
Yeah, of
classes or?
course.
Yeah. Okay. How would they do that, Jon?
Email me. Generally speaking, email is the easiest way because if I'm not on it at the time, I will get to it. And I'm always happy to talk to anyone because one of the things I've said to people is you never actually know when you're going to find a collaboration that's going to be more than just what a lot of film is. A lot of film, you get on set, everyone becomes friends and family phenomenally quickly. And then when the film's over, 90% of people will go their own way. It's just the nature of the industry. And you never know who's going to stick around. I mean, I was in business for 7 years, running a little production company with someone I met on his first year university project when he reached out to me and said, "Hey, we need a script. We're meant to be shooting this in 4 weeks. We've got an idea. We need a script." And I'd been just talking to him online randomly in a film group. And, first year uni student, those productions can be ropey. And it was quite a production. But he became a business partner for 7 years. One of my present collaborators, I finished a feature with him last year, which is a very, very heavy social drama called Aphelion, which is doing quite well at the film festival circuit. He was someone I met at a local camera hire place, and he just happened to be friends with a producer I knew. We started talking, and 17 years later, we made a feature type thing. So you never know who is going to be that person to collaborate with. So you've just got to keep doing things, even if it's not big, even if it's not the grand magnum opus that you want to tell the world. Keep doing things because they become your tribe. They become
Right.
the people you turn to when you don't quite have enough money and you go, "Look, I'm doing a feature. I've only got 7 days. It's insane. Why don't you come along?" And they did. And that was rules of the game is I think I pulled together more of my friends into that production than I had before. And it was a 7 day feature. It was insane. But we got through it with almost no carnage because the majority of us knew each other. And we met a couple of new people. We met a production designer, Megan, who was fantastic, who we want to work with more. One of our camera assistants, Logan. It was you meet new people, you make new family, and some people stick around and some people don't.
Exactly, exactly. And so yes, so circling back to your email, what is your email for everybody so they can get in contact with you and
It's Jon, Jon, no H, Jon at ravenswoodfilms.net.
very nice. Thank you, Jon. And so if you want some classes or perhaps you would like to connect with Jon, please reach out to him. He's in Australia, but he's international. In the States here, right, Jon? You're available
Yeah,
for
yeah. I mean, I
teaching?
was I was over in Ohio about a week and a half ago at the Horror Hound Film Festival because Rules of the Game was screening in that. So
How
it can
was
be done.
that? Yeah.
It was awesome. I mean, it's a massive convention. Horror Hound at weekend itself, 2 times a year, they get like 20 to 30,000 people a day. And there's a film festival that runs adjacent to it and with it. And that was great fun because, there were a dozen horror films, all new festival films. Some had got home as distribution, others hadn't. And you meet the people who make these films, and they're all as bonkers as you are, and they're all chasing the same dream you are, but it doesn't feel competitive. I didn't talk to these people thinking they're just trying to find out where I live so I never make another film. They were really kind and open, and I met some amazing people, and there's some amazing films that hopefully will find distribution out there, Wait Till Dawn and such. And it was a really nice experience. It felt right to be there. An expensive trip, of course, but it was fun.
What fun. I mean, and like you said, there's people that you meet there and it makes great memories too. I love that as well. I love hearing about that. Thanks for sharing that, Jon. Um, is there a project in your filmography that felt like a major turning point for you professionally or creatively? What shifted after that? Was it backlash?
Um, it's really hard to put my finger on it because Ravenswood had a particular shift in it about having confidence in my own stories. Um, St. Joe's, or also as the Hanged Girl, was a brave choice. We shot 2.5 hours out of Sydney in an isolated location where the pure logistics of making the film was really tricky. I had a fantastic producer with me on that, which was Tara, and she and my production manager Veronica did so much work on the logistics. We would have not managed to do the shoot as we did without all the amazing planning they put into it before and during the shoot. You can't do a film without the bedrock of the people who have the most unglamorous jobs on the planet. You know, they're organizing food, they're making sure the accommodation's right. No one remembers their names, but they should do, because without them, we don't have a film. That was a brave one. Backlash, I tried to do an action film on a baby budget, and that was just fun. It was a really fun, energetic, everything was always moving shoot. And I went, I could commit to shots because I didn't have enough time to do huge, long 20, 30-day shoots. That was a 12-day action film and had to commit to certain shots. And it gave me the confidence that I could. So by the time I got to the rules of the game, I went, I know I can run a location with the right help. I know I can commit to shots and commit to the actors and let them play. Let's just go for it. And rules, I feel like everything from the previous half a dozen films, the different little bits I'd learned, all came together to make what might be my best film. I hope so. I really enjoy it. And yeah, 7-day feature. We had no time. We committed to shots. We did, 2 shots for a scene that probably deserved 5. And in most part, it's there.
Definitely. Definitely. John, thank you for that. What do you hope that your audiences take away from all of your films? What's important to
Hopefully,
you, how they view?
hopefully not acute cases of vast depression on how horrible humans can be. Um, I think it is the insight into the way humans think under pressure. Um, but that's another little bit that Rules of the Game had is in one of the characters, Kira, played by Alison Rudlin, and Evie, played by Lola Merewether. They had such a lovely relationship between them. Kira was actually quite a light, kind of fun character through chunks of it because that's how she approached something really depressing. I had a lighter character in a darker world. And in Evie, I had a socially awkward character. So you get this really bubbly, very social, energetic character and a really shy, awkward character. And I just think for that film in particular, it's friendships in unlikely places, where you find friends, how you bond with people. Sure, it's all going to end depressingly. It's a horror film, well, psychological thriller. But I think those characters kind of said, hey, there's always light in darkness. You can always find people who can inspire.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Um, and that's part of the, when they watch it, whenever anyone watches a film, it's always a great self-analysis. What would I do? How would I react on that? And how did it all start? How did they all begin to come together? I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? The analysis.
I
So,
would really like.
so as a writer and director, John, do you find yourself protecting the script or letting it evolve in the moment? Like, let's say you're on set, okay, and you have a locked in script and everybody's happy with it and they've all read it and they're all used to it, okay, but you're on set and you just feel in that moment, in that day, as you're filming, you want to be a little bit more improv, you want the characters and actors to improvise. Are you relaxed like that as a director? Talk to us about that.
Um, I mean, you spend a lot of time with the script beforehand. If you do your rehearsals properly, that's where you get more of playing with the actors and playing with ideas and playing with shots, especially if you've not got a lot of time. If you don't have a lot of time on set, you don't have the time to play particularly. But what I tend to do with the actors and with the camera is if you're not going to land exactly on the script, I don't mind as long as the message is the same because the voices are perfect in my head, but they're still affected by my voice. So it's impossible for me to embody how a 20-year-old female character who's been through X, Y, and Z is actually going to say the lines. And so I usually say to my actors, play with them, say what is natural. If you try and say exactly what I've written, well, it's a boys' boarding school in England and a degree in psychology and various other stupidities. Find your own voice with the character as long as the meaning is the same, as long as the story is told. I don't mind if you tweak things around. On set, sometimes things just change. You don't even ask them to change. The actor will be sitting there doing a spiel, and in the moment, they'll come up with absolute diamonds. And you've then got to go, can I use the diamond, or is it still a lump of coal? It's a matter of having enough ego to steer the ship towards its story, but not having too much ego that you can't listen to anyone else.
Are you a real hands-on set for the characters? Do you coach them? I was watching Steven Spielberg the other day, coaching Harrison Ford in one of the Raiders of the Lost Ark movies, and he was right there talking. Are you that way as well, John?
Um, Lack of time forces some trust. Peter Dinklage, Game of Thrones, Tyrion, he said, if you cast well and you cast the actors to tell the right story, you shouldn't actually need to talk to them a great deal on set because they get the character, they understand it, they know it possibly better than the writer does because they've made it their own. So I tend to like to let the actors run with things. If they're not getting to where I think the story is, then we'll play with a few things. I'll give them a few, action words, something simple. You can't overload them, especially in a fast environment. If you've got the time that you can spend 10 minutes discussing it all, awesome. And I would love to. And one of these days I hope to do that. But I think do the pre-production properly and as fully as you humanly can, and then be willing to let things evolve on set. And if you need to step in, you step in. Some of my actors have commented on how little I say. Um, and I'm like, then you're doing great. I'll say you're doing great, but you're doing great. You don't need me to say anything except you're doing great. So it is a tricky balance, but I think if your actors are correctly cast, they will find their own way most of the way to the line, if not the whole way.
That is so great. Thank you for explaining your style of directing and filmmaking, John. I'm going to have to start wrapping the show up. I'm so sorry. We've had such a fun and great time talking with each other. I do have a couple more questions, if that's okay,
Yeah, of
John.
course, I'm
For
here all day.
awesome. So for emerging filmmakers, and you touched on this a little bit before, but for emerging filmmakers listening in right now, what's one piece of advice you wish you had when you were starting out in the industry?
Don't do it.
I've heard that before. But Go ahead.
The hardest thing I believe for new filmmakers to understand, and this is going to sound really harsh, no one cares. There are so many out there, and it's getting worse, which might be getting better. We might be getting better stories out of it. There are so many people out there making films. No one's going to notice if you don't. So if you want to make a film, you've got to want to. It's got to be something so innate and so driving that you have to make the film. It's not just want, it's have to. If you don't have to make it, then don't, because it's a hard path, especially when you're starting out and, you're begging favors and you're trying to cast people and the actors are asking hard questions. And then you get the crew on and they've done more than you and they're all watching and the director is the captain of the ship. The actors are the sails. You've got to be able to work out how to sail in the right direction. The first AD will tell you how fast to run your ship. The camera op will go, this is not the right angle to have the ship on. You've got to have enough confidence in your story, and wanting to do it just because it'll make you famous is no reason ever. Wanting to tell a story because you actively want to tell that story. You can't survive without it. And maybe your audience will watch and go, wow, I actually felt that. So you've got to want to, because it's a hard, hard path. And maybe I'm a little cynical, um, or I'm very cynical, but want to do it and then do a lot of films with other people. So you don't have to direct your first film. I took 12 short films before I attacked a feature, and then I did another 2 dozen before I attacked the second one, which was another with Chloe. Learn the craft. You won't know it all to start with. You won't know the shots. You can watch a lot of films and go, that looks easy. It's easy because they're good. It's easy because Spielberg's been doing this since time began. He is so innately tuned into shots that he can do an entire film apparently without a shot list. And that was Schindler's List.
Yeah,
He literally didn't need it
right.
because he understood, but that's 30 years of experience. When you start out, get on other people's sets, watch what they do. If you think that's not right, it may not be right, but at least you know not to do it on your own. Don't rush. Everything has its own time.
Great words of wisdom. And we love Chloe Traicos. She's so wonderful and such a great person and a beautiful heart. And did you enjoy working with her? Tell us a little bit about that, John.
I've known Chloe for way too long. Um, I met her on one of my sets. She came on as a production assistant, and a mutual producer said, hey, Chloe's got a really cool story to tell. And it was a really cool story. It was years ahead of its time. It was diverse, female led, different cultures clashing, all wrapped up in a romantic comedy. So it was both funny and heartfelt at the same time. Really good story. Because Chloe is also the writer, she has a very, very clear vision of where she wants the characters to go. And sometimes, as the director, you're like, but I don't want the characters to go that way. I think they should try this way. So we would have a lot of spirited debates on where the story would go and how it would go. But the important thing in the end, and I think this is important for working with writers, especially writers who are also leading ladies or the producers or both, it's still their story. Script editors sometimes land on a script and tell you to change this and change that and change this, and you're not telling the right story and you've got to change the lens. Sometimes that can be a brilliant idea. Sometimes it unlocks a whole new quality of script if you're open to it. But I also believe Chloe came to me with some very specific stories she wanted to tell. And I may have wanted to tell bits of them differently, but that wasn't my job on that set. My job was to tell her story. So I could say, hey, what about this? What about this? And Chloe would listen and then go, no. Or she would listen and go, give me time with that. I can't make my mind up right now because it's a wholly new idea. Give me a week or two. And sometimes the script would come back with amazing changes, and sometimes it'd be, no, that's not the way I want to tell my story. So I think that's an important lesson if you're brought on to direct something is try and find their story, try and enhance their story. Don't tell your own because your own may not be theirs.
Definitely. And it's really working with other people on a team. The teamwork is so, so important, isn't it, John?
Yeah.
And you have to have people who are aligned and with your thinking and your vision and your dream. And so, yeah, we love Chloe. She is amazing, amazing actress, writer, director, producer, and just wonderful all the way around. John, are there any thank yous or acknowledgements you would like to mention?
I think I mentioned a lot of them along the way. I've kind of scattered them in and amongst. I mean, in the end, it's people who support this kind of ridiculous dream, who, listen to me when I'm ranting and raving about some new story idea. I was jabbering to my composer, Victor, yesterday about a whole new idea, and then we spent hours talking about his. And there's too many people in this world to reference individually. You can't thank everyone because you will forget someone.
That's so
So
true.
it's really just all of the people who have supported me. I forgot one of my leading ladies on one film, and I have never thanked people individually since
Oh my
because
gosh.
you always forget stuff.
It's kind of
And
a little bit like the Academy Awards, right? Or the Oscars.
she was she was so lovely and so easy to work with, Olivia, that she just dropped out of my brain. I thanked everyone else. She came up to me at the end of the screening and went, "John, you forgot me." And I'm like, "Oh my God. Oh, I'm
Oh,
so sorry." And ever since then, my speech has always run the same way, is I don't thank anyone individually. Um, you know, I'll mention names in a longer form like this. So, rules of the game. I had a co-director, had a lovely young lady called Lani, who was co-directing as her first directing effort and couldn't have done it without her. She had a very different approach to directing because she's an actor. So if I couldn't find a way to explain it, I'd just say, Lani, the floor's yours. And off she would go and performances would happen. So
wonderful.
it's it's very tricky.
That is so great. Thank you, John. Okay, so I have a signature question on all of my shows. What is your heart message for the world, John? We're in interesting times right now, and we need a lot of encouragement and great people like you to, just share your heart with your message of what's important now, John. What do we need to focus on, the world?
It's odd with me because, people look at my catalogue of films and go, "You keep murdering people. You're evil." Um, Actually, I'm a big mush at heart. The one I want to do is a rom-com. And to me, equality has to be equality. So it sounds a little biblical, but treat others as you'd be treated yourself. If you judge other people, well, of course they're going to send it back with interest. Try and be open to everybody, even if you don't agree with them. You don't have to agree with everyone. You know, Respect their opinions. I have very, very strong debates with my friends. Chloe and I have had some wonderful debates over the years, and I respect the opinion she has. I may not agree with it sometimes, and she may not agree with me, but we have our own views. And as long as you respect other people's approach and do right by them, be honest, be open, be caring, if you can change one person in a little way and they change somebody else and they change somebody else, it's all we can do. Most of us are too small to change the world. But if we can change the people around us, we can give them a day when they smile. Give them a day when they laugh. Life is tough.
Right.
Give them that little moment when they forget that life is tough and they remember why they're doing what they're doing. Just be good to people is the best I can come up with. I can't change the world, and I don't think I'll change the world. But if I can give the people around me who have supported me support as they have me, then I think we're onto something.
I agree. And yeah, it's just being kind to people, being nice, be yourself, be authentic, be true to who you are. And that's what, and that's what people want most in the world. They want to be treated with kindness. We all do. And that's so, so important. Thank you, John. Well, I've enjoyed this today so, so much. And again, thank you, Chloe, for referring us to John. John, you're an amazing film director, writer, and producer, and we'll look forward to the rules of the game. Everybody, make sure to put it down in your note or your journal to keep track of the rules of the game so you can watch it and see it and purchase it when it comes out on whatever distribution platform that it's going to be, or check it out in a theater if it's going to have one of those premieres. But
You
John,
know,
anything else what's up?
Backlash is out there. Um, it's on Tubi TV at the moment. It's on Amazon Prime. It's on Apple TV. It's pretty much everywhere it can be. So, something to watch while you wait for rules of the game. And Tubi is all advertising driven, so you don't have to part with any money to watch it. Um, and yeah, just have fun.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much, John. It's been such a pleasure. And we look forward to tracking the rules of the game film. And take care for now. And many blessings to you and your family and everybody there in Australia and the whole film industry over there. Okay, take care.
Thank you for having me, and you have a good evening.
Thank you, John.